today I go to Auntie Ramy and Auntie Ganit. When we look at the revival that happened, of course there is the book that people have read and heard. And there have been sessions of past stories that have been shared. But today I would like to ask you, how did revival happen for you personally?
Thank you for this opportunity of sharing. It's such a blessing to be here. Perhaps I'll just start with saying that I was born, and as we are all born into a community that was already exposed to the gospel, into a Christian community as such. I learned to pray at an early age, but didn't know that I had to accept Christ into my heart. And that I did when I was 15 in Bario, because there's a junior secondary school there when I was in Form 3. And from there, you go to the next town to continue your education. So I went to Marudi for Form 4. Both of us, Ganit and I, we were there in Marudi. And I think that is where most of them then accepted the Lord. I accepted the Lord in Bario, but Marudi was really where I really grew, and we grew together. Maybe I ask Ganit to share something about us growing together in Marudi and how the Lord has worked there.
Like Ramy said, we both were raised up in a godly community. For those of you who are grandparents, I would like to share with you. I listened to my grandfather every day praying for me, talking to God about me, my brothers, specifically every day. And I also heard them as a community pray for the land, the weather that would affect their paddy. I already then believed and knew that I was surrounded by the presence of a living God. But like Ramy said, I never knew that I have to accept Jesus in my heart. And when we went to Marudi, I already then felt there was something different about the atmosphere in the ISCF school there. Still, I did not know that I had to accept Jesus. Then my good friend recruited me, encouraged me to be part of a choir that went to an Easter convention in a Kayan Longhouse, Long Atip. And there was this evangelist called Petrus Octavianus from Batu Malang. I remember the first night he preached. This is how I met Jesus. And he said, "Malam ini anak raja di atas keldai melalui jalan raya. Engkaulah yang di bawah sana." He said, "You are the one lying on the ground groaning. You don't have to pray. You just have to groan. And Jesus will pick you up." And that night, I thought, if I'm the only one who's going to put up my hand, I will. And I put up my hand, and then he called people to stand up. I saw multitudes and multitudes of people standing up to receive Jesus. We came back from that time. Ramy and I were in the long boat with 2 missionaries going down the river, and it rained, and there was nothing to stop us from 2 days in a boat, in the rain and in the sun, worshiping God. And when we reached the school, no one could stop us from praying. So not only we prayed for our parents, we were praying for the church, I think, that revival would come.
So that started, that was in April that we came back from that convention. And the students we were praying all the time when we were praying in groups. We were in a boarding school, and we were blessed to have 2 missionaries, I think, who were stationed there to look after the students. All of us were actually indigenous students from longhouses around, and we were in the boarding school. And they were there, they taught us, and they mentored us. But I think after that convention, we were praying in groups every night. I think because we have private study time, and then we will stay on and pray in the classrooms, different groups. And I think the Lord was really moving in repentance among the students. We began to even ask for forgiveness from one another. I think it was more we longing for more of God, more of the presence of God. And one of the songs we used to sing was, "From glory to glory, He's changing me." And that was our prayer, Lord, change us from glory to glory. And we were, Ganit said, we prayed, many of us in different groups. Maybe I'll just share part of that, and Ganit will continue with that. Do you want to go on first? Yeah. One of the experiences, really meeting moments. We prayed in groups in a classroom one night, as we already really felt the presence of God in the school. I think our services were really charged with the presence of God. But this night, we were praying for ourselves, but we were also praying for revival in Bario, in the villages that we came from. And the suddenly thick with the presence of God. It's like you can feel, you can almost touch God. It was the presence of God just descended so strongly upon us. And I remember just seeing like a flash of light and reaching out to God and say, God, here we are. And I'll let you share what we saw.
Yeah, there were 3 of us in that classroom. And I've never heard teaching on tongues. Neither have I read about tongues. But that night, when the 3 of us were praying, my Aunt Mujan and Ramy and I, whether I heard or whether I saw a vision or it was in my mind, but it was like as if, see Bario, there Bario you can see in the background, you see it surrounded by mountains, right? And it was as if I saw a thick cloud covering the entire valley. And as we were praying, I don't know what we prayed for, but I saw a beam of light penetrating the darkness, the clouds into Bario. And Ramy, I think. And I broke into tongues for the first time.
So nobody prayed for you, laid hands. You just received tongues.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the thing was, I saw that vision as well. This whole valley that was covered with thick clouds, and then together we were praying and thank God that He was breaking through that cloud. And this was in September, I think about September 4th. Yeah. And it was 1 month later that we heard that revival has also broken out in Bario. But through that time, we all were praying for God to come and touch the community again in Bario. Yeah.
Do you know, it's amazing because what happened was at 15, they were all in Bario, and that's where God visited. And after 15, you'd have to go down to the city in Marudi. That's where you would go for your Form 4 and Form 5. And that was both Auntie Ramy and Auntie Ganit's experience. They're best friends, although they're cousins. And so the 2 of them went down to Marudi. And what we're seeing is in 2 different locations, while they received the Spirit of God in Bario, it's almost like before they left Bario, the Lord caught them. And then after that, they went to Marudi, only to stir up an and also a prayer for Bario. And that's where the wave hit. Continue to hit in Bario. And so although we are in different locations, I think that's the move of the Spirit of God. And they went back to Bario during their school break, and soon we would hear that. I would like to